Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Katie.
Yes.
Yes, Katie. Okay, great. I do believe there's some people on the phone who can't for whatever reason. We have provided the phone number, but I think, Johan, maybe we could try that again. It should be in the email that everybody got. So let me go ahead and start the presentation.
Yeah, I do have a lot of thumbs up coming up through this chat, so I'm assuming that they are confirming that they can hear you.
Yeah, and so a few people have said that they can't hear anything. So they should be able, like, they're not muted just to speak, but yeah, if you could handle that while I go ahead and start the slides, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay, so welcome. Mary is actually having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to go ahead and run this presentation with my colleague Anne Marie, and we also have Deanna on the phone from the Department of Revenue, who's going to be helping us with questions, and Greg Norfleet, who will be helping us on the DFML side with any questions. So welcome, colleagues, and thank you for attending our webinar. All right, so the first slide. So I just made some quick introductions. As you know, we both have the Department of Revenue here and representatives from the Department of Family and Medical Leave, because you're going to need to actually work with both departments to verify your employer account. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A function that we're asking people to type in. We also see people have been putting questions in the chat. Either way, we'll capture all of these and put together a frequently asked question and send it out to participants. And of course, everybody has asked, and I want to reaffirm that we will be sending out the slides from this as well as a recording of the webinar itself. Next slide. All right, so what is this all about and why is it important? DFML is launching a security initiative. And
where I couldn't do it that way either. It says I'm signed in on another.
So sorry. That was Mary. She's still having trouble with it. So DFML is launching a security initiative, and this is all basically to protect employees and company information. And we just want to make sure that the right information is getting to the right people and that access is as secure as possible. So basically what it does, it's actually allowing us also to provide you sooner with functionality that everybody has been asking for on the employer side, which is a dashboard, so that you can manage all your claims in one piece. So we just want to let you know that anybody who is currently on the webinar or in general that this is only for employers who are using the state program for paid family and medical leave, not for employers who are exempted and using private plans. If you got that message in error, we apologize, but this is not for anybody with an approved exemption or using private plans. All right, next slide. All right, so what we want to go into right now is that there will need to be two things that you do. Basically your registered tax administrator, the business or the person who you would be contact about this, has to go into their mass tax account. Because to verify your employer account with DFML, they will need to get your contribution information from the most recent filing period. Well, and like I said, we'll send out these slides, so those logins will be in there. So the first part is to work with your tax administrator to get the number amount from your most recent filing period, and I will walk you through that process. Then, as a leave administrator, you will need to take that number, click into your employer account on May 11th, next Tuesday, and enter the amount to verify your account as a one-time verification, and then you're done. All right, next slide. All right, so sometimes I'm not sure if everybody understands that we're two different departments with two different systems. So the Department of Revenue collects the PFML contributions. They have their own system. It's got its own security walls, and they only can work directly with tax administrators. PFML or DFML, the PFML program, we review claims and benefits, adjudicate anything that comes in, and then handle claimants and the process and the payments itself. So we are colleagues, we work in tandem, but it's not the same system. So whatever you need to talk to your tax administrator to get the information, then go into your own employer account that you should have already created. If not, we do have a slide on how to create one to verify your account going forward. Next slide. Okay, so again, we just want to reiterate what this means. This is another layer of security that we're instituting for the account and for your employees' leave-related information. This is private information. This is sensitive, and we want to make sure that it's protected. This is one data point that we thought would be a natural way to verify your account because it is unique to any company that is using the state plan for PFML, would have made contributions through DOR and would be able to take this data point and verify their accounts. So that's why we took the one number of recent tax remittance, whatever is the most recent number, whatever it is, to provide verification starting on May 11th, next Tuesday. Okay, so next slide. Okay. So I see some people asking if there's 2 logins. There is 2 logins. It may not necessarily be yours depending on your role in the company. The first one would be to have your registered tax administrator log into their MassTaxConnect account. This is what it looks like. We have a link to it on the slides. It is something that it would be unique to someone who would be filing your PFML contributions. Next slide. When your tax administrator opens up MassTaxConnect, this is the screen they would see. They basically go to the Accounts tab and select Paid Family and Medical Leave and choose Returns. Again, this is not something leave administrators to do. This is for tax administrators to get this information for you. Next slide. The tax administrator would then go and choose the most recent period for which a return has been filed. In this case, this would have been December 31st, 2020. You can obviously see that it said received and view or amend return. So that's the most recent one. Next slide. Then you would go into that particular time frame, in this case, December 31st, 2020, select the number exactly as it's written. So you want the full amount, including the cents. So dollars and cents of what was the tax that was remitted. Copy that amount. Next slide. Okay, we are now out of the MassTaxConnect system. At this point, the tax administrator should take this amount that they copied for the organization or organizations that you are in charge of as a leave administrator or human resources rep, and send them to you, or whatever way that you want this information. That is basically the tax administrator's role in all this. They're going to get that information and give it to you so that next Tuesday you can then log into your employer account like you normally would. This is what you would see. If you log into your employer account, your PFML employer account, you'll see verify your account to continue. It won't let you do anything in the employer account until you verify it. You can also click on the your organization's link. It'll take you to the same exact place. So just to be clear, you will still be getting emails about your claims to go ahead and do something. Like the emails will continue, everything will be the same. The only difference will be when you log into your employer account on May 11th going forward, you will need to verify it. So you click either of these links. Next slide. And you will see this page. So this page actually lists several organizations, which is true for some of you. Either way, it'll list the organizations that are attached through their EIN to your email address as the paid family and medical leave administrator. So you will click the link that says verification required next to the company name. Next slide. And then you will simply enter the amount that was given for that company or organization for the last quarter that was filed. And I believe I was supposed to have turned over some of these slides to Anne Marie and Deanna, so I apologize. I just sort of had to jump in at the last minute. Okay, next slide. And this is the page you'll see once you verify your account. It says, thank you for verifying your paid leave contributions. And then you hit continue. And from then on, the employer account will act just as it is in the past. It has now just been successfully verified with your email address and your contributions information. Next slide. Okay. What we're doing here is we wanted to go into some of the error messages you might receive and what the next steps are going to be. But before we do that, is there, well, we'll go into questions later, never mind. All right, so some of the error messages that might occur are you entered an FEIN that is not in DOR. Your account should be associated with the EIN for your company. So just make sure that you have the correct FEIN going forward, or that it should be correct. And if for some reason it's not looking like it's correct, you know, that would be something you need to work out with the company, because that is sort of a direct, that's actually something you need to create an employer account. So ensure you have the correct one, and if not, follow up to see what's going on. Another second error that might happen is you entered the contribution amount wrong. You just want to make sure you enter it exactly as seen. We provided a link to the information in the walkthrough on our website, which we also have in other places in this walkthrough, but it just shows you what you're going to see. And my DOR colleagues, feel free to jump in at any time if I'm missing something. Another error you might see is you entered a withholding amount for an FEIN that has not made contributions to DOR. That's a separate situation. That is something that you'll need to rectify that with the Department of Revenue, because that's something that your tax administrator will have to handle to rectify the account with so that paid leave contributions are made.
Catherine, if I could jump in just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
We would prefer if you're a brand new business and you don't have any history, if you would give the Department of Revenue a call, and then we can instruct you on what to do going forward from there. And again, that number is 617-466-3950.
Perfect, thank you. And we also provide that number at the end, I believe. All right, next slide. Okay, the other two error messages you might see are that you entered the FEIN in the incorrect format. Just double check the number that you have. It's a 9-digit number. It should be entered exactly as that. And last but not least, if you entered a duplicate EIN, basically you have already verified with this organization. This is a duplicate. There's no action necessary here. It just means that you've already done it. If for some reason this looks an error, that is something, you know, I'm not quite sure what the follow-up would be about that, but it's something you should report to us and we'll figure it out. Okay, next slide. All right, this is for PEOs or TPAs or people who basically manage multiple companies or organizations. If you manage leave for multiple companies, you'll need to complete this process for each employer ID number you have on your account. And it'll have verification required next to all of the companies that need verification. So that will be the case going forward after May 11th. I mean, beginning May 11th. Next slide. So just to re-emphasize the deadline, so the May 11th is when all of this functionality will be in place. So beginning May 11th is when you can start doing this. You can go in and verify your account. We're telling some people that, you know, if they don't want, because there's going to be a lot of people doing it on that day, and even though we're prepared for that load, if they want to wait until they just get an email about a claim, go into the account and do it then, that's perfectly fine. Either way that you want to do it, start beginning May 11th, next Tuesday, you will have to verify your account as a one-time procedure going forward. So it's not something you do every time, it's just one time to verify your account, and then you can then log in as normal from then on in. This is a slide for people who, for whatever reason, don't have contributions. like any quarter, because you're a new employer or you had an exemption, but are no longer exempted. And there are two ways you can rectify your account. Anne Marie or Dan, if you want to just jump in there with that.
Yeah, so thanks, Catherine. This is exactly what I was trying to explain earlier, is if you do not have any prior return amount value that you can use to then go and verify your paid family, your leave admin verification, we would prefer that you give us a call and we can walk you through the directions on how to get a value to then go ahead and verify your account. And thank you for providing the phone number on the slides, because I believe you did say that everyone will be getting a copy of these after the presentation.
Correct. Okay, great. Next slides. All right. This is just for, because I believe, through our outreach across the board, we, to all employers, we've been trying to tell people that this process is coming up on May 11th. We did want to also highlight, because some people have asked us about how to set up an employer account, that there is, a page on our website that you'll be able to use after May 11th. We're basically reinstating self-registration. If you want to set up an employer account before then, you'll need to call the contact center, and the number is listed there. So if you don't currently have an employer account with PFML, you can set it up through the contact center, or on May 11th going forward, you can hit self-registration and it will let you know what information you need to set that up. However, you'll need to go through the same verification process we just walked through. Next step.
Katie, can I
Next
jump
slide.
in there for a second?
Yeah, of course, please.
Yeah, so if we can go back to that last slide, we are seeing a number of questions in the Q&A and chat about this. Currently, the way to create an account or an employer account with the department is through calling the contact center. One important nuance to know is that currently you can, when you call our contact center, you can only associate a account with a single email address to a single FEIN. So on May 11th, one of the other features that is going to be going live is the ability to associate a single email address with multiple FEINs. So if you oversee payroll for a number of different organizations, that will be supported as well after verification goes live. And that can be done via self-registration, where you'll need to provide the FEINs for each one of your organizations, and then provide the verification for each one as well.
Okay. Okay, so next slide. All right, so these are just some tips for success, and we'll jump into some of the questions that are being asked in the chat or the Q&A in a bit. But as we've said several times, and it should be clear through the email, that this is not something you can do right now. The only thing you can do right now is to talk to your tax administrator to get that number to prepare for this. Beginning May 11th, Tuesday, May 11th, when this goes live, then you can go ahead and verify your account. It will not be accessible prior to that date. In the meantime, if you have open claims, you can certainly go into your employer account and verify them now. We don't anticipate problems, but it's just a way to sort of avoid, in case something happens, or I think in general we've gone through the load several times, and there shouldn't be a problem with the capacity we know of. But you might as well deal with the open claims if you can. And as I pointed out earlier, if you don't have any open claims and you want to wait till you get an email, you can do that too. There's no cutoff date for this beginning May 11th. We're just going to leave it open for employers to do for at least the next several months. Greg, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think we're just going to leave it open, and then
yeah, that's correct. So May 11th is the date that this becomes a real feature within our portal. It does not require you to do the verification on May 11th in order to be done with it. This is a one-time action for each leave administrator within your organization that they can complete starting on May 11th. You don't have to complete it on that date.
Exactly. The other thing that's been asked a few times is, you know, is it just one account or one person? It honestly is depending on how you're set up, but you might have multiple leave administrators in the same company who have accounts. It's basically whatever account is associated with an email address. So if you have multiple people from the same company, go ahead. If you have multiple people from the same company who have employer accounts associated with their email address, they'll need to verify their account as well. Is that correct, Greg? Did I say that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
For version 1 of the verification process, it is every email address needs to be verified for each FEIN. There might be room in a future iteration to change that, but in this current version, anyone that you want to have access to the employer request for information will need to complete this verification step.
Okay. Next slide. So this is just some resources and numbers that you can use to find out more information, see a visual walkthrough like we just showed you in the slides, basically how to file, return, and remit. You can use these numbers, use the number that Anne-Marie was talking about earlier. So there'll be a resource for you to basically go through this process. I think that's it. Next slide, just to be sure. All right, great. So what questions do you think are the biggest ones that are coming up, Johan or whoever, that we should answer?
Sure, yeah, there's a few questions here. Again, people just want to make sure that the process needs to be done in two platforms, meaning through PFML and also through DOR. So you just retouch on that point one more time.
Okay, so yeah, just to reiterate, there is a mass tax account, which will have would have a tax administrator or multiple tax administrators, depending on the organization associated with it. They would be the people that would be able to log into that system. There is a link to it in this slide. And if you have a company that handles your taxes or an outside vendor, whatever it is, you would need to contact them to get this information. Someone just asked, what if your payroll department doesn't have a mass tax account? Anne-Marie or Deanna, you want to address that?
So at that point, they would need to contact the master administrator or tax administrator that has paid filing. So a master administrator would have access to all accounts. A tax administrator is limited to whatever is assigned by them by the master administrator. So in a company where you would have individuals that might handle just corporate tax or sales tax and just paid family and medical leave, that tax administrator would have to have access to the paid family and medical leave account.
Okay, good point. All right, and there was a question, Anne-Marie, about what if they're a company outside the US? They would still have to have some version of this, correct?
Correct. Yep. So they would still have to have a master administrator or tax administrator set up on the account. Okay,
great. And someone also asked if they could call DOR to see if there is a Mass Tax Connect account set up for their company.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Any other questions? So anyway, the second half of this is for paid family and medical leave. The whole point of this is if you've got claims coming in from employees for paid family and medical leave, you would be logging into our system, our lawyer account, our employer account, to verify claims. And this is a separate login, separate system. Again, the link is there on the site, in the slides. And once you get into that login, that's when you'll need that number of the last remittance filed for PFML to put it in there. Any other questions we should answer?
Can we review? I'm getting lots of questions in the chat about the link. People are looking for the link. People have clicked on the link. It's not working. Can we just address the link?
All right, so the link to the employer account where you went and verified, most of you should have, you know, an employer account that you can log into. But if you're looking for a link, sort of the general link that we're providing, it is not going to be live until Tuesday, May 11th. So if you don't currently have an employer account and want to set one up right now, you need to call the contact center. If you go back one slide, please, Johan. Yeah, you need to call the contact center, which is 833-344-7365 to set up an employer account today. So if you currently don't have an employer account, you're not going to have the login or link anyway. If you currently have an employer account, you should have a link to your login, but it's going to look exactly like it always has. It's not going to be any different. It's only starting next Tuesday, May 11th, that when you log in, you're going to see that you need to verify it. So the link that I'm providing in this presentation currently doesn't go to anything, but going forward, it'll go to the login screen that you would normally see as a leave administrator. Okay, any other questions we should answer?
Also seeing a lot of, I'm also seeing a lot of questions regarding PEOs. If PEOs file your taxes, who is that who they should go to collect the numbers? A lot of PEO questions and how PEOs work with this process.
Okay. Greg, can you jump in there with that one?
Yeah, with PEOs.
Yep.
Sure. So in a PEO arrangement, it's a joint employer relationship where somebody is responsible, where your employees, for tax reporting purposes, live under the PEO's FEIN, and they are responsible for taking in or reporting wages to DOR, to DUA, and they can also be responsible for things like leave administration in your organization. This is totally fine within DFML for that individual or for that company, assuming that you've given them permission to do so, to act as a leave administrator for your organization. They'll still go through the same verification process. So if you have a PEO or a leave administration TPA, do make sure that they have access to the verification amount that we're asking for. Otherwise, they will also be locked out of some of the more helpful features and functionality within the portal after verifications go live.
Yeah, Greg, this is Mary. I finally resolved my technology problem, so nothing like being late to your own party. But I just wanted to add that we are working with the PEOs and their associations to make sure that they're aware that this is happening. And so they are well positioned to help all of their clients through this transition.
Can I jump in with one thing that I've been seeing in the chat a lot, because I've been answering most of the chat questions?
Please.
So a lot of the questions are, if I have a third party, are they going to do this for me? They are not. You may get your information from your third party like ADP, Paychecks, etc., but they are not going to log into your account to get your contribution amount, log into your benefits administrator account and verify your account for you. They are there as a resource for this information if you do not log into MassTax Connect to get it yourself. But typically a payroll provider is not your benefits administrator. That's typically someone internal. And I think there appears to be some confusion and questions, a lot of them, about that.
Yeah, I think that in a PEO arrangement, many of those, it's part of their contract to review and recommend on the leave. So in that case, if they have been authorized to do that, then they would be the ones to complete that activity for their email account. But if there's also someone within the company that looks at that information as well, then they would have to do their own. You're correct about that.
And just to reiterate, if you're setting up a leave administrator account, it's because you want to review applications from employees that are coming into us. So if you don't want the payroll people to be the ones calling the shots on applications coming in from employees, then they shouldn't be leave administrators. Like those are the people that are reviewing these applications. Yeah, they're different systems. I'm also seeing questions regarding if I don't have to remit the employer contributions, do I have to do this? The answer is yes.
Right. And Lisa, just to build on what you were saying, this is what gives you the ability to have a say-so in the process of reviewing these claims. And this is your opportunity to provide really valuable input to us, because otherwise we would have no way of knowing if, for example, an employee was receiving a benefit through another program that you offer through your company. That's information that we need to know. So we're, particularly in the case of an intermittent leave, it's really important that we have a dialogue with you as an employer. So it's really critical that if you want to have a voice in the process, that you have your leave administrators set up. And then just to emphasize again, this is just for employers that are utilizing the state program. This is not a process that you need to go through if you have a private insurer. If you've opted out of the program or you're an exempted employer, you don't need to do this.
I also do want to say that, several people are saying they've called the contact center. Again, this is not something that the contact center can help you with until May 11th. If you want to set up an employer account, they can do that today. But for anybody who has an existing employer account who wants to verify it, this is beginning May 11th.
We do encourage you to make that connection, though, with the person that pays the taxes. Contact that tax administrator and make sure that they can give you the number that you're going to need in order to verify your account. That much you can do ahead of time. And as we said, you can clear out your backlog, take care of all of those claims that have been submitted already, just so you don't run into any potential delays. So there are things you can do to help yourself out. You just can't verify. You can't verify yourself at this point.
And for anybody who has a question we haven't gotten to, we will send out these slides, a recording of this webinar, and of course, answers to everybody's questions that we can get to. I promise you, we will get you some answers.
Catherine, we got a few calls concerning why the two different agencies, and I know you did touch upon it through the slides, but just to broaden that that question, when DFML and DOR were collaborating with this program, it was really for the convenience of the employers that they felt that to utilize DOR and our system, because you were already filing, for the most part, filing returns for, say, withholding tax, sales tax, corporate tax. So they thought for convenience, we handle pretty much anything employer related. So the return filings, the payments, payroll systems were already familiar with MassTax Connect. So really it was for the convenience of the employers. And DOR has their contact center. DFML was handling the majority of benefits. You would call DFML for anything benefit related. So it's usually the employee that calls DFML and the employer that calls DOR, if that clarifies anything further for anyone.
Yeah, that helps, Anne Marie. Thank you. I think, this goes way back to when the program began, and we had a rare opportunity to start a government program from scratch. And one of the objectives was to utilize the capabilities that we already had within state government. So that's why we went to DOR and partnered with them so that they would handle the contributions, because they're the experts and they've got it down, and it's a system that that your tax folks were used to working with. So that was how that partnership began. There aren't many instances where you're utilizing both platforms at the same time, but in this instance, it is information from one system that needs to be put into the other.
Any other questions you think we can address?
I think we've touched this on before, but I do see a lot of questions about if this process begins in the May 11th.
Yes, the process itself begins May 11th, but it's up to you as an employer to decide how you want to approach this. If you're wanting to get this all taken care of and out of the way, you can log on and do this as of the 11th. If you want to wait until you have a claim that needs to be reviewed, you can always do it that way too. You'll continue to get the notifications that a claim is pending, and you would just provide that verification information at that time when you go in to look at the specific claim. So it's up to you which way you want to handle it.
I saw a couple of questions coming in. I know you addressed those entities that have an exemption. You do not need to do this. You're exempt. You have a private plan. This also applies to those who are statutorily exempt from remitting contributions, such as municipalities. You also do not have to do this. I saw a couple of questions coming in from religious organizations and municipalities. So that also applies to you. You do not have to do this. You do not have to remit contributions. Also see a lot of questions from Connecticut. If you are considered a Connecticut employee, so basically whatever state is responsible for remitting unemployment on the employee's behalf, that's who is responsible for the PFML. So I know that a lot of us are working remote right now, so just because you're a resident of one state does not necessarily mean you're considered an employee of that state. So if Connecticut unemployment is what you're reporting to, and PFML taxes are being taken out for Connecticut PFML, you're a Connecticut employee. So they would not be counted as a Mass employee. I keep seeing a lot of Connecticut people in here, so.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, nobody's going to be locked out of their account. This is just a process that is going to be beginning May 11th, where you will have to verify your employer account with PFML or DFML going forward. So at any point when you log into your employer account beginning May 11th, you will have to go through this verification process we just outlined. But you're not going to be locked out if you don't complete it by May 11th. It's just you have several months to do this. We're just giving everybody fair warning that they're going to need the last contribution through their tax administrator so that they're ready to verify their account the next time they log in.
I don't know if you mentioned this, Greg, or not, but this is really the beginning of a number of positive enhancements for the employer community, and getting this in place is going to allow us to roll out our employer dashboard. I know that that's something that a lot of employers have really been looking forward to, and that will give us some extra tools in order to effectively manage claims that are in the system. So we're looking forward to continuing to introduce some new functionality to you as the next few months go by.
See several questions about which quarter or what amount. Deanna or Anne Marie, do you mind just clarifying that for people again?
Sure. So the last quarter that was filed, so right now, the Q1 2021 contribution amount should be the value that you're obtaining right now to be used on or after May 11th. So Q1 of 2021.
And it's the one quarter, the one amount. And if you haven't filed yet, use whatever quarter before that you have filed for.
Perfect.
And that date will be in the screen that you see when you go to verify your account. If there's any confusion, that date will be there. It'll say, please put in the contributions amount for such and such, and the date from the quarter will be there. So hopefully you'll have that information.
Johan, do you want to go back to that slide just so we can point that out to folks again?
It's right there. No.
Oh.
Yeah. So on this slide, yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I'm sorry. This is the slide on the PFML site where you put in the dollar amount that you've gotten off of Mass Tax Connect. So when we put this together, when you were looking at this after the fact, the logo down there for PFML signifies that this is the PFML site that you are entering the information into. You want to go back another slide or two, Johan, till we get to the DOR slides. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this slide here, this is the one where it shows you which quarter we're going to be looking for. So you want the most recent file that has been submitted. So if the way I'm reading this, and Anne Marie, correct me if I'm wrong here, it looks like then this March 31st hasn't been filed yet because it's saying file now.
Correct, Mary. This is just a guide just showing the last four periods that have been filed. So that's how it would be viewed. However, Q1 of 2021 would be overdue by May 11th.
Right,
so ideally, we would definitely want them to have filed that quarter.
Yeah, of course.
Timely, because the filing returns timely also aids in your employees getting the correct benefits if they're applying. So we really want to encourage everyone to be filed up to date. Obviously, if you have any questions or need help filing, again, you can call the DOR contact center, and we'd be happy to help you if you're struggling with filing returns or any or making payments or anything on that line. But definitely Q1 of 2021 should be filed by May 11th.
Right. So yes, you're right. This is an old slide. So, but it's showing you exactly when the last one was submitted. So that's what you would go to. And if you go to the next slide. Down here, you're going to want to go to that summary section, and where it says tax, that's the number that we're looking for. We're not looking for what the balance is. We're not looking, if you send in contributions once a month or once a week, we're not looking for that number. We're looking for the quarterly total. So just, don't get thrown off by those big zeros that are up there. That's not what we're looking for.
Anne Marie or Deanna address employers who do not know who their master admin or tax admins are, how they find out who those contacts are?
So are these, I'll assume that they're leave administrators. They would need to contact, well, they should have a contact with it. So a master admin should be an owner officer of any entity. And like I said, a master, and then per their registration, they do sign off stating that they will be the only one to use that username and login. Procedures are, if you have another individual working with you, you are to assign them access rights to your account. So then they would in turn get their own username and password. Usernames and passwords should not be shared throughout an office. And again, you do sign off on that upon registering. So I would first go to the owner officer of the entity, and they should be able to tell you or either assign you access if need be, or give you the information that's needed at that point.
And just to be clear, DFML and DOR, the Department of Revenue, are two separate departments. So you should always just pay your contributions to the Department of Revenue. And for anything to do with reviewing claims, there should be a leave administrator or an HR contact who works with PFML. So when you log into Mass Tax Connect, there's no link to log into PFML. So we will provide that link in the slides so that you can click on it starting May 11th, or you can, but in either way, you should already have a link if you've set up an employer account. If you have not, you can call our contact center, whose number is at the end of the slide. So these are two separate departments. It's just for this particular purpose, we're asking you to work with your tax administrator to get this information. So if you already have a Mass Tax account, which I assume you do, or whatever, there will be someone who's paying taxes, but have not set up a PFML employer account, then you can call the contact center to do that right now.
So if we don't have any further questions, why don't we just wrap it up here? And we want to thank everyone for their participation today. It's always a pleasure for us to engage with the employer community, both for us to tell them what we're working on in terms of program enhancements, and also to learn from employers and try to tie into their best practices. So we're glad to have connected with you today. I hope that this has brought some clarity to you in terms of what's expected. I know it sounds like it's an onerous task, but really we're looking for one number, it's a one golden ticket that is going to allow you to verify your account and ensure that the data that your leave administrators have access to is appropriate. So we thank you again, and you'll be receiving a copy of this presentation as well as links to helpful information from us within the next couple of days. There's a short survey that's attached to that so that we can find out how to help you all in the future. So please know that you can contact our contact center anytime, and the same goes for the Department of Revenue. They're more than willing to help us through this transition. So again, thank you for your time, and be on the lookout for this follow-up email. Have a great afternoon, everyone.